So the main thing that I wanted to get across, so my background actually is software. So I used to work for BMC Software, and recently over the last 3 years been involved in 12 different POCs and pilots that made it, cloud pilots that made it into the data center, into production. We got a 60% win record with the Cisco platform. But the most important thing, I think, was the lessons that I personally learned, and I wanted to share some of these with you. And I think very much the devil is in the detail around the component technology pieces. Of course, cloud, as everybody said, is not about technology, but for me, if you don't get the engine right and the plumbing right, then you are not going to hit your aspirational goals. So one of the main things that I wanted to talk about today was how, in my experience of POCing this and piloting this in a data center, some of the things that I came up with and really had issues with once we put what we had on slide into action. So, of course, we've got all these challenges that we talk about, you know, whether it's server sprawl, power and cooling issues, OpEx costs, space crunch, time to market of applications, all very valid. And while Cisco's solution may be the best solution for customer A, it may not be for customer B. If a customer says, you know, is your solution the best in the market? The answer back is definitely not yes. It is, depends what your requirements are. And this is one of the main things that I think when you call vendors to the mat to look at how their particular solution works vis-a-vis the competition, does it give you the savings that you're trying to deliver, whether OpEx, CapEx, or mean time to market of your application? I think if you are looking to really adopt this type of cloud solution, then why wouldn't the vendors involved in that experience, involved in that process, step up and try and do this benchmarking for you? Without the numbers, then it's impossible to tell what is the right and wrong solution. And in fact, if you have a validated business case to move to cloud. So what we found worked really well for us in terms of POCing this, even on the ones that we lost, was when the customer was very open about what they wanted to achieve. They allowed us to build a test plan and understand with them what the critical capabilities were that they required in order to deliver their goals. We then map that test plan to the critical capabilities required to achieve the goals, and then we get somewhere close to a business case that can stand up in front of a board, in front of finance to say, well, actually, X dollars we're going to spend, we're going to get a return on that. And that return may be 3 years. That could be a good business case for some customers. For others, it's 12 months. So it's very important to know what the customer is buying when we're trying to sell this technology. And again, I would never say that our technology is best in breed for every customer. So you see really complex slides like this where you see simplification of and automation of hybrid IT, going in to do the request, support, provision, configure, monitor, operate, plan, and govern. The typical life cycle of a cloud life cycle reference architecture, let's say. And they all have their own place. But for me, it's much more simple than a slide like this. It's just simply what we've been doing already in IT for a long time. If I think about some of the customers I've worked with, I'll name France Telecom, as they're a big customer of both BMC and Cisco. The way that 10 years ago, when I was selling automation technologies, the way that I went into France Telecom was I understood that they were doing pre-production virtualization. I then tried to automate the way that they provisioned that environment. We then went back later. I actually worked for a company called Blade Logic, which was bought by BMC Software, and we layered on an orchestration capability. So runbook automation and orchestration of bringing many tasks together. We automated some individual siloed tasks, then we linked multiple tasks together, and then simply for the latest cloud project that we did, we just put a front end on top of what we'd already been doing for the last decade with them. Did they have to change the technology components to get the best result? Yes, they did. But that doesn't mean to say that every customer needs to do that. Again, it's so important to understand what you're trying to achieve. But there's simple 4 boxes for me. So when I look at the practical example of OpEx costs, $8 in management for every $1 spent on infrastructure. So of course, reducing OpEx through the time it takes to provision the compute capacity is really where we've built a lot of the business cases for cloud opportunities. If you have a look, typically you have these different stages. They're different for every customer, but design and size, DC planning, procure, detailed design, deploy, and then test, and then, of course, into production. Now, the time it takes from a service request from the business to going live with that service or that platform to actually take the service or application you're trying to roll out, there's a $ attached to each one of those stages. Now, of course, with validated designs and validated designs such as the Oracle guys talked about for their particular application, yes, you absolutely do reduce some of those stages. You have the ability to have a reference bill of materials. You have the ability to have a precise deployment and understanding of the throughput and the VM density, let's say, that an application can run on a particular platform. Fantastic. So you do gain an OpEx saving, let's say 50%. And this is actually taken from a POC we did with a Spanish mobile provider.